Nobody sets out to push their child away. Not one parent reading this, not one parent watching this, woke up this morning and thought, today I'm going to do something that creates distance between me and my child. And yet it happens. In millions of families, across every income level, every culture, every parenting style, children drift. They stop sharing. They go quiet. They build a life that increasingly doesn't include their parent in any real way. And the parents are left confused. Because they were there. They tried. They loved their child, genuinely and deeply. And somehow, that wasn't enough. Here is why. The mistakes that push children away are almost never dramatic. They are not the obvious ones, the cruelty, the absence, the neglect that anyone would recognize as harmful. They are silent. They are the small daily choices that feel completely neutral in the moment, the response that seemed reasonable, the reaction that felt justified, the habit that never got examined because it never felt like a problem. This video is for parents of children of any age, from toddlers to teenagers to adult children. Because every mistake we're going to talk about starts early and compounds over time. And if your child is still young, you have something incredibly valuable. Time to do this differently before the distance sets in. If your child is older and already distant, this is for you too. Because it is never too late to understand what happened. And understanding is always where change begins. Let's start with the one that almost nobody talks about. 1. You listen to respond, not to understand. There is a version of listening that looks like listening but isn't. You are in the room. You are making eye contact. You are nodding. But inside, you are already forming your response, already deciding what advice to give, what correction to make, what point you want to land. And the moment there is a pause in what they are saying, you take it. Your child, at every age, feels this. Not as a complaint they can name, but as a sense that the conversation is moving too fast toward your agenda. That what they said was received as a prompt, rather than as something worth sitting inside for a moment. The shift from being listened to, being heard, is one of the most profound experiences in a human relationship. And children who are consistently listened to, really listened to, with curiosity and without rush, develop something important. They develop the belief that their inner world is worth sharing, that what they think and feel and experience is interesting to the person they love most. Children who are not genuinely listened to develop something different. They develop the habit of keeping things to themselves. Not out of defiance, out of efficiency. Why share something that will be redirected within 30 seconds? Research from the University of Illinois on parent-child communication found that children rated parents who asked follow-up questions and sat with what they said before responding as significantly more trustworthy and approachable than parents who gave quick advice or redirected conversations. The children weren't measuring how much time the parent spent. They were measuring the quality of attention. The practice is simple and very hard. When your child finishes saying something, wait 3 seconds before you respond. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, do I understand what they were actually trying to tell me? If the answer is no, ask a question. Not a leading question, a genuinely curious one. What was that like for you? Tell me more about that. What do you think is going on? Those 3 seconds are the difference between a parent who talks to their child and a parent their child actually talks to. 2. You corrected them in public. This one seems small. It isn't. Every time you correct your child in front of other people, other family members, friends, strangers, you are doing something to their developing sense of self that private correction never does. You are teaching them that their mistakes, their imperfections, their wrong answers are safe to display to you in public, that you will use whatever moment is available to improve them, regardless of who is watching. And children internalize this. They learn to manage what they show you, to perform their best, most correctable self around you, to keep the messier, more uncertain, more genuinely struggling version of themselves for somewhere you aren't. The relationship that results from years of public correction is a polished one, proper, appropriate, and fundamentally shallow, because the child has learned, through accumulation of experience, that you are not safe to be imperfect around. Correction belongs in private, always. Even when the mistake is happening publicly, the correction waits. A hand on the shoulder, a quiet word later. Can we talk about what happened back there? The public moment belongs to your child's dignity. The private moment belongs to the learning. 3. You were emotionally available for crises but absent for ordinary days. Your child fell off their bike and you were there immediately. When they got sick, you stayed up. When something went seriously wrong, you dropped everything. You were, in the moments that counted most, completely present. But on a Tuesday afternoon when nothing was happening, when they came and sat near you without saying much, when they hovered in the kitchen while you were cooking, when they mentioned something about their day that wasn't urgent or dramatic, where were you? The research on parent-child attachment is clear on this. Connection is not built in the big moments. It is built in the small ones. The accumulation of ordinary presence, the brief eye contact, the genuine tell me more, the sitting together with no particular agenda is what creates the felt sense of closeness that makes a child feel safe coming to you when something actually goes wrong. A parent who is only emotionally available for emergencies teaches their child something that will shape every relationship they ever have. They learn that connection requires crisis, that they have to be in distress to deserve your full attention. Some children respond by manufacturing distress, by escalating, by dramatizing, by creating emotional fires just to feel close to someone. Others respond by going silent, by deciding that if ordinary moments don't warrant your presence, they will stop expecting it. Be there on the ordinary days, the boring ones, the ones where nothing is happening. Those days are the relationship. The crises just test it. 4. You gave advice when they needed witness. Your child is upset about something. You can see exactly what the problem is. You can see exactly what they should do about it. And you want to help. That impulse is real and it is love. So you tell them. Clearly, efficiently. You give them the answer. And they close. Here is what happened. They didn't come to you for an answer. They came to you to not be alone in the feeling. And the moment you moved to solution, you moved away from them. You took their problem and turned it into a project, when what they needed was someone willing to just stay in the difficult moment alongside them, without rushing toward the exit. Witness is one of the most underrated parenting skills. The ability to be with your child in their pain, their confusion, their anger, their disappointment, without trying to fix it, without minimizing it, without making it into a lesson, is the thing that builds the deepest trust. Because what it communicates is, I can handle your hard feelings. You don't have to manage them alone, and you don't have to manage them quickly, and you don't have to perform being okay for my benefit. Ask before you advise. Do you want help thinking through it, or do you just need to say it out loud? That question, asked genuinely and respected whatever the answer, changes everything about how a child experiences coming to you. 5. You said, I know how you feel, when you didn't. You were trying to connect. You were trying to show them they weren't alone. I know exactly how you feel. I went through the same thing. It felt like empathy. To your child, it felt like the conversation being taken away from them. Because you don't know exactly how they feel. You know how you felt in a situation that seems similar from the outside. But your child is a different person, in a different time, with a different inner world. When you tell them you know exactly how they feel, you are, without meaning to, closing the space they were standing in. You are filling it with your own experience instead of staying curious about theirs. The more powerful move, the one that actually creates closeness, is to stay in the question. That sounds really hard. What's it been like for you? Not, I know how that feels. Not, I went through the same thing. What's it been like for you? 5 words that keep the focus exactly where it belongs, on them. And hey, if you've caught yourself doing some of these things and you're still watching, that matters. Hit like and subscribe. Most people scroll past the videos that are actually about them. 6. You made love feel conditional, without knowing it. No parent intends to make their love feel conditional, but many do, through a pattern so subtle it almost never gets named. It lives in the difference in your warmth after a good day versus a bad one, in the way your voice changes when they've disappointed you, in the extra affection after they did something that made you proud, and the slight cooling after they didn't, in the that's my kid energy when they succeed, and the quiet withdrawal when they fail. Children are extraordinarily sensitive to these shifts. They are running a constant, unconscious calibration of the emotional temperature between themselves and their parents. And when that temperature fluctuates based on their performance, their behavior, their compliance, they learn the rule that shapes everything afterward. I am more lovable when I am succeeding. That rule is devastating. Because it means failure is not just disappointing, it is threatening. It threatens the fundamental security of being loved. And children who feel that threat don't grow into adults who take risks and bounce back from failure. They grow into adults who either avoid failure at all costs, or who have collapsed their identity entirely into achievement and cannot function when the achievement stops. The research on unconditional positive regard, developed by psychologist Carl Rogers and extensively applied to parenting, consistently shows that children who experience love as stable and unconditional, independent of their behavior, develop stronger self-esteem, greater resilience, and more genuine motivation than children whose love felt earned. Not because they were never held to a standard, but because the love was never part of the standard. Correct the behavior, never cool the love. Those are two completely separate things. Your child needs to feel, in their bones, that they could fail every test and lose every game and make every mistake, and still be the person you are most glad exists. 7. You never let them see you struggle. You wanted to protect them. From worry, from burden, from the weight of adult problems. So you kept it together in front of them. You managed your stress, concealed your failures, presented a version of yourself that was always competent and usually okay. And in doing so, you accidentally taught them that adults don't struggle. That competence means not showing difficulty. That if they are struggling, something is wrong with them that would not be wrong with someone who had it together. Children who never see their parents authentically struggle develop a distorted picture of what it means to be a capable adult. They have no model for what it looks like to face something hard and not know the answer and keep going anyway. When they hit that experience themselves, and they will, everyone does, they have no internal reference point, no memory of watching someone they admired move through difficulty with honesty and grace. You don't need to burden your child with adult problems, but showing them, in age-appropriate ways, that you get frustrated, that you make mistakes, that some days are hard, that you don't always know what to do. This is not weakness. This is one of the most valuable things you can model. It tells them, difficulty is normal. Struggle is survivable. Asking for help is what capable people do. 8. You were physically present, but mentally somewhere else. You were in the room. You were at the table. You were at the game, at the recital, at the dinner. But your phone was face down beside you, and you kept checking it. Or your mind was running through tomorrow's meeting while they talked about their day. Or you were nodding along, but if they'd asked you 5 minutes later what they said, you couldn't have told them. Children notice this. Younger children feel it without being able to name it, a vague sense that they don't quite have you, that some essential part of your attention is elsewhere. Teenagers name it directly. You're not even listening. You're always on your phone. Forget it. What they are actually saying, underneath the words, is, I don't feel like I matter enough to have all of you. Presence is not about time, it is about attention. 20 minutes of genuine, undivided phone in another room, eyes on them, presence, is worth more to a child's felt sense of being loved than 2 hours of physical proximity while you're mentally elsewhere. Pick moments, not all of them, but pick some, and in those moments be actually there, not almost there, there. 9. You punished them for having feelings. Not with words. You never said, stop feeling that. But when they cried, you rushed to stop the crying. When they were angry, you sent them to their room. When they were sad about something that seemed small to you, you minimized it. When they were scared, you told them there was nothing to be scared of. Each of those responses sent the same message in a different form. Your feelings are too much. The correct response to difficult emotion is to make it stop. And children who receive that message consistently learn to do exactly that. They suppress. They perform okayness. They learn to live in the upper layers of their emotional life and avoid going deeper, because deeper is where the feelings live that nobody wanted to see. These children become adults who don't know what they feel, who are cut off from their own emotional experience, who arrive at therapy at 35 unable to answer the question, what are you feeling right now? Not because they are broken, because they were taught, very early and very efficiently, that feelings were a problem to be managed rather than an experience to be lived. Let the feeling exist, name it, sit next to it with them. You're really angry right now. That made you sad. I can see you're scared. Not to fix it, not to rush past it, just to acknowledge that it is real, that you can see it, and that it doesn't frighten you. That is the whole thing. and it changes everything about how a child relates to their own inner world. 10. You stopped growing as a parent. This last one is the hardest to sit with, and it's the one that, in some ways, explains all the others. Every one of the mistakes on this list is something that can be changed. The listening, the presence, the emotional availability, the unconditional love, all of it is learnable. None of it requires you to be a different kind of person. It requires you to be a more intentional version of the person you already are. But that intention requires something that many parents never commit to. The willingness to keep growing, to keep examining, to keep asking whether what you're doing is producing what you actually want. Closeness, trust, a child who feels genuinely known by you. Or whether you have been on autopilot, repeating the patterns you inherited, doing what was done to you, assuming that love is enough, without examining how that love is being received. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study of human happiness ever conducted, found that the quality of relationships was the single most powerful predictor of well-being across an entire lifespan. Not success, not achievement, not any of the things we spend most of our parenting energy on. Relationships, the closeness, the trust, the genuine knowing of another person. You are building that right now, in the ordinary moments of your ordinary days, in the way you listen or don't, in the way you show up or don't, in the 100 small daily choices that your child is watching and absorbing and turning into their understanding of what it means to be loved. No parent gets all of this right. No parent is supposed to. What separates the parents who stay close to their children through the years from the ones who don't is not perfection. It is the willingness to notice, to adjust, to keep trying to get it more right than yesterday. That willingness is what this is really about. Not being a perfect parent, being one who never stopped trying to become a better one. Pushing a child away never looks like pushing. It looks like being busy. It looks like good intentions with poor execution. It looks like love that never learned how to reach across the space between two people and actually land. The good news is that none of these mistakes are permanent. Patterns can be interrupted, distance can be closed. The child who has gone quiet is not gone. They are waiting to see if something changes. Change one thing. Tonight. Tomorrow. Next week. One question asked differently. One moment of actually listening. One "I was wrong, I'm sorry." One time you let the feeling exist instead of rushing to fix it. That is how trust is rebuilt. Not in a conversation, in the accumulation of moments that went differently. Subscribe to Mindful Parenting. We'll be here every week.